it's hard to also figure out like what is depression. Like
Yeah,
you say
that's for
you
sure.
had depression. To a person who doesn't have depression, like myself, I hear that and I go, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean you feel bad? What does it mean? Does it mean there's like a thick, wet blanket over your life that you can't get out of?
Yeah, it means like there's a couple of things. The closest, it's impossible to think of when you're not depressed, but the closest I get to is if you're in a really, really stressful situation and a whole bunch of things go wrong at the same time, that stress you feel is kind of like a really, really mild version of being depressed. But being depressed is like, if you look at something, the colors seem muted. You don't get joy out of anything.
Like this color, the sky, like everything.
Reds, like just colors. Everything's in grayscale. Kind of feels like you're walking through molasses. And then you have a whole bunch of anxieties pop up all the time that are like worst case scenarios of everything in your entire life that won't happen. But that's all you can think of all the time. That's partly anxiety. But it's hell. Like having arthritis, I would choose arthritis a million times over than this depression.
Wow.
That just wrecks you.
So what leads you to the carnivore diet? This lady has been living on it for 18 years. You read about her and that she's still alive without eating.
And her Lyme disease gone, and she looks great. There's a before and after picture. She looks
and is
great.
she taking vitamins as well?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Beef and salt.
Right. So this is what you hear. So this anecdotal story is what leads you to give that a try.
Well,
and what
I
year is
thought,
this?
yeah.
This
This
is
is
a year ago?
2017, so December.
December.
Almost, yeah, so not quite a year.
Okay.
So I switched over, and then I had these transition symptoms.
Diarrhea.
Yeah. That was basically it. Some craving.
It's bold to hang in there with 6 weeks of diarrhea.
Yeah, but the alternative was like anxiety and itching and arthritis.
Well,
and then after 6 weeks, it got better. And then I reintroduced olives, and that went badly. And I thought, okay, I'm done with the reintroductions. I'm just sticking with meat.
Your dad said he's going to try to reintroduce mushrooms.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. He seems to be weirdly sensitive too, like in the same category as me. But instead of getting arthritis and all these other things as well, he just gets the depression, which is the worst one.
Well, he said he introduced something to his diet and he didn't sleep for like 24 days.
Yeah. So
like, that's not even possible. Like you would be dead.
No, that's what it felt like. I had the same thing. We ate the same thing. I think it was sulfites in apple cider in a stew I made. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was. I think that's what it was. And yeah, and then it was the itching came back, and the doom came in, this depression came in, and then that's weird, and it hasn't happened very many times, but I got stuck with insomnia. And it felt like we weren't sleeping.
So you slept like a little bit and you wake up?
Probably, yeah. It does not what it felt like, but I'm
Right.
sure, it's not physically possible to stay awake for that long, but it didn't feel like sleeping.
What do you remember what it was that he reintroduced to his diet?
That might have been, it wasn't a reintroduction. It was, we were just still eating apples at that point, and it was a cider, and it had sulfites added, and I looked at it and thought, whatever, it's like parts per million sulfites, it'll be fine. And then that was the only thing that was new.
So do you think that as you get onto this elimination diet and you start taking things out,
you get more sensitive?
You get more sensitive. So it's like one of the things that I noticed in a big way is when I cut sugar out of my diet. If I have sugar now, like if I go crazy and have an ice cream sundae, I hit a fucking wall so hard where I can't even get up.
Yeah.
I have to sit down on the couch. I'm like, it takes like an hour or two for it to get out of my system. So for like an hour, I just sit there and I'm like, oh, God, I feel like shit. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, okay, it's done. It's passed.
That's it. It's 2 hours.
Yeah, about 2 hours.
It's like 24 days for me. So I stopped taking the immune suppressants when I cut out gluten just to see how my arthritic flare-ups would go, if anything would happen. Then I got off of the antidepressants November 2015, and then my fatigue lifted in January 2016. So I got off the Adderall right away then.
You haven't been on this diet for a year.
No.
What has the change, once you got over the diarrhea, what has the change been like?
So the arthritis and like the autoimmune stuff went away fairly quickly when I was still having diarrhea. That went away. The mood started to pick up 6 weeks into the diet. And then in May, so I'd been December, January, March, April, May. So 5 months into it, I had a huge improvement. So things just got better and better every day. And I finally got to the point where I was pre-pregnancy. So since May, 2019, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So 5 months into it, I had a huge improvement. So things just got better and better every day. And I finally got to the point where I was pre-pregnancy. So since May, I would say it's still getting better.
So it's only been 3 months that you've been okay.
No, I've been okay since January, but my mood went from like a 8 to like a 9.5, like great in May. So I was feeling good after this first 6 weeks. But then things got a lot better in May. It seems to be just improving.
Look, this whole thing is a very fascinating subject because people are not having the response that nutritionists would like them to have.
No.
Right. Nutritionists would like you guys to be freaking out and falling apart, and everybody seems to be doing well. I have a friend of mine who lives in San Diego who's been on the carnivore diet for a while, and he's a Navy SEAL. He said he feels fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
He said he just tried it out, see what it was like, and he's never felt better in his whole life.
Yeah.
Elimination diets. This is a big thing. Like getting yourself down to a very small number of foods. And that this seems to have some sort of a large benefit for people as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would depend on the foods.
Yeah, it's like your body not having too much to manage, and that people with autoimmune disorders and diseases having less to manage could potentially be what is benefiting you as well.
I don't think it's less, though, because if you survived only off of soy, you're not going to do well. I think it depends what you're eating.
The whole thing is just, it's one of the more interesting things is how people, they always want to attach all these other things to it, the environmental concerns and the concern for, the health and welfare of these animals, and that you're supporting factory farming and all these. It gets very ideological.
Oh, yeah, super fast.
Real quick, right? But it's not what we're talking about.
No, I'm concerned about other people who are suffering as much as I was suffering.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. Before you're concerned with animals and everything else.
Way before. Try living, if your choice is to live with an autoimmune disorder and die slowly that way, you can do that and not eat meat if you want to.
Well, it's also, I think, a disingenuous argument because 97% of the people in the world eat meat. Or some crazy number like that.
It's easy to tell other people that when you're not experiencing those symptoms.
It's also, definitely. It's definitely easier if you're not experiencing those symptoms. But there's so much meat eating going on already. Mm-hmm. And if people really can benefit greatly from just an all meat diet, what are you going to tell them? Don't do that. Go vegan.
You keep suffering.
Go vegan and be covered in hives and itching and be in depressed states the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's such a hot subject. And I feel like this is something that we're going to have more insight on over the next few years because people are starting to study it now, and it's starting to be, Sean Baker, who's a physician, and then you've got some really dedicated athletes that are trying it now, like, Zach Bitter, who what does he own the North American record for 24-hour race?
Wow.
Not for 24 hours, for 100 miles. He ran 100 miles in 11 hours and 40 minutes, which is just fucking insane. And he eats almost nothing but meat.
Yeah.
It's almost his entire diet. He supplements with high levels of glucose, like those gels and shit like that, and ramps his carbs way up when he's going to do 100-mile races and things like that. But that's obviously a ridiculous requirement on his body. He's he's asking his body to run 100 fucking miles in 11 hours and 40 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He also weighs 5 pounds. Yeah, I'm just joking. He weighs like 140, but it's just his diet shows that it is possible to do extreme physical feats while you're on this.
Yeah,
and he does a podcast also with Sean Baker. So this is something that people are really starting to study now, and there's a lot of argument. There's a lot of hesitancy.
A lot of anger.
Oh, I read some article today criticizing you and your dad.
I know.
Yeah.
That's okay. I find it kind of I can understand. A lot of people who go on the carnivore diet get really vegan hatey.
Well, that's what they were doing. They were saying, well, that's true. But what they were doing is they're going off about the environment. This was like methane gas produced by cows.
I don't think I saw this article.
It's not a good argument because this is happening. Like if you're a person, okay, I'm not saying that we don't all have a responsibility to do our part to try to save the environment. But if you're a person who's deathly ill, you go to the supermarket, there's a lot of fucking beef. You can go buy beef. It's right there.
Yeah.
And if you could buy that beef and it fixes you, why don't you stop and think about the ecological concerns, the environmental concerns, and then the physical concerns of people that are forced to take on these fucking ridiculous pharmaceutical medications and introduce those into their lives. And think about, you're also empowering these pharmaceutical companies and they're lobbying to stop natural cures. They're trying to make kratom illegal. There's a lot of fuckery that's involved in pharmaceutical companies that we're well aware of. A lot of cherry picking studies.
Yeah.
They'll do 100 studies. One of them shows that there might be some benefit to this. 99 shows it fucks you up, and they ignore those, and they're allowed to do this. There's a lot of weird shit that we really should take into consideration before we support any sort of pharmaceutical alternative. And pharmaceutical drugs aren't demons. There's a lot of people that benefit greatly from pharmaceutical drugs.
I did. I don't think I would have been able to figure this out unless I'd been on Adderall and had the energy to Google.
I'm sure. I mean, look, there's benefits. They're not all bad, they're not all good. But I don't like that argument. Like, hey, if you go on the carnivore diet, you're contributing to methane that's fucking up the world. Like, okay, is it better or worse than pharmaceutical drugs? Is it better or worse than what they're doing? Is it better or worse than the fact that, look, pharmaceutical drugs are in the water supply? They've done tests on reservoirs and found pharmaceutical drugs in them. They found pharmaceutical drugs in rivers
and fish.
Yeah, it's like shut the fuck up. There's a lot going on here. Don't. If you're going to look at this, you better look at it if you want to make an argument against it, you better be balanced about this, because otherwise you're showing your ideological bend. Like to say that it's about methane and about cows and factory farming. Not really. No, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. This is a long and nuanced discussion, and if you're painting this article in one way and talking only about the negative health and negative environmental concerns that are associated with beef production, like, look, that beef production's going on no matter if you like it or not.
Yeah.
If you think we can curb it back and slow it down a little bit, that would be wonderful. But we have to look at it accurately. And also, I believe they've proven that methane, Google if this is true, that methane production from cows, and this only makes sense, is far less when they're on a natural diet, when they're pasture raised, than it is if they're corn fed. But it makes sense because they have all sorts of
corn.
Yeah, they have all sorts of
like
issues
a bad idea.
when they're eating grain. Grass-fed cattle do more methane. What is that? Do more methane? What is that? The fuck? I'm not reading that.
Yeah, they fucked up.
Grass-fed cattle do more methane because it's harder to digest. Okay, obviously do produce more methane because it's harder to digest grass than grain. However, some argue grass that is continually grazed by grass-fed cattle sequesters enough carbon to make up the difference in methane. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And healthy soil keeps carbon dioxide underground and out of the atmosphere. Okay.
Yeah,
so
there's a big story behind there.
Right. So that's why it's better for the environment if they eat grass, which totally makes sense because they've been eating grass for 1 million years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you are. Here you are on this diet now, and you've started to. What are you doing? Consulting people online?
So I am now. Yeah, I started about a month ago.
And what does that involve?
People Skype me and basically want to see me and how I'm still alive, only eating beef. And then they ask me how to cook and things because nobody knows how to cook meat without anything on it. Well, how do you cook? Like, how do you cook with just beef? They don't know what to do. They're like, "What oil do you use?" Like, I don't use oil. Like, I think most of these people I've been talking to a lot of. I use tallow. I use tallow a lot. But most of these people are really sick and really desperate, and they haven't had any help from the medical system. And so far, and this is completely true, anybody who's gone on to this like beef and salt and water diet anybody I've seen who's been able to stick through that transition period where you like get off of carbs.
And explosive diarrhea.
Not everyone gets that. Dad didn't
Who
get
are the
that.
lucky ones?
It's like it seems to be 50-50. It looks like the sicker
Come
you are.
on, 7.
Yeah, no. It seems to be, but like seriously, 50% of people, and it seems like the sicker you are, the more likely you are to get that. And I don't know if it's a inability to digest that amount of fat right away, or if it's a microbiome switch or something, but it seems to hit 50% of people. And the other 50% just switch over. But everybody gets some sort of carb withdrawal, especially if you go from like a standard American diet over, then it's insane cravings.
Oh, do you get your ketones checked? Have you done that?
I did. I went to PaleoFX this year, and I got my ketones checked, and they were ridiculously high. That was with a breath test. And then I have like urine strip tests, which I know aren't as accurate, but I haven't gone out of ketosis. My diet's about 80% calories from fat. So
How's that?
I eat ribs, which are really fatty. I eat ribeye sometimes, but I've been eating more and more fat. So just calorically, I'm getting about 80% from the fat.
See, I eat a lot of meat, but I'm eating really lean meat because I'm eating a lot of wild game. I'm not getting as much fat.
I think the fat's the good stuff.
I think it's definitely, it has a factor.
I didn't finish. I'm halfway through a book called Fat of the Land by, I'm going to butcher this, but like Vilhelmur Stephenson. And it was this dude who went to live with Inuit people in Canada for 5 years, and he ate like they ate. And it's amazing, like historically, it shows how they dressed and how they lived and what parts of the animal they ate. And so he lived off of what they ate, which was basically just meat and sometimes eggs. For 5 years, and then he came back. I don't know if he was in England or in the States, but he came back and said, hey, look how healthy I am. All I eat is meat. This was in like the 30s. And they said, no way, you're supposed to have scurvy. So him and his partner, his last name's Anderson, went to Bellevue Hospital, and they stayed under monitor just eating meat for a year. And there are 6 studies done on them, and you can find them online. And they monitored like vitamin levels. They monitor everything because kidney function, because back then, like nothing's changed in the last 100 years. They said you're supposed to be dead of scurvy. So I'm reading that book, and he says fat was one of the main things they ate. They also didn't eat any salt.
Now, they were eating like whale blubber and seal fat and things along those lines.
Mostly caribou.
Caribou?
They also had
Caribous are very
brain.
lean, though.
Yeah, but he said they gave a lot of the really lean cuts to the dogs. So they ate a lot of the fattier cuts. They ate the brain. They ate fat behind, he goes into some serious detail. They ate fat behind the eyes.
Yeah.
They boiled a lot. They boiled bones for the marrow, so they got fat out of that. And then for part of the year, they'd also eat seal.
The fat behind the eyes tastes like, it's like bread, like dough.
You know that?
Yeah.
I haven't had that.
Yeah, I had it with the first deer I shot. We ate the fat behind the eyes. It tastes, it's like
Is it good?
No. No. It's not the best.
Okay.
But it's definitely, it's just weird, like dough.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's a good book, though. And there's another person who was just eating meat, and for some reason, people have forgotten about him.
How do you react to fish oil?
Not well, but it was hard to tell because I was reacting to other things at the same time. So I don't eat chicken anymore, and I don't eat fish anymore because it doesn't make me feel as good as beef.
But it doesn't give you a bad reaction.
Not like soy or grains, but
But if
it's
someone
not
took you out
pleasant.
to a restaurant and lobster was on the menu, you wouldn't eat a lobster?
No.
Wow. Ooh. No dessert.
No. But the thing is, the cravings go away after you transition over, so I don't even care.
How often
That's
do you
gone.
eat a day?
3 times usually. If I'm doing more, I eat more. Otherwise, I'm eating about 2.5 pounds a day. If they're fattier, then I'll eat less.
So you're just like a walking beef catastrophe.
Yeah, it's great though. It's amazing, and then I drink like sparkling water, which I love. Like Perrier excites me.
So just Perrier and beef and salt, and that's it. Now, what do you think about people that say that this idea might work in the short term, but in the long term, it's not sustainable?
I don't even know what kind of response to have to that. Like,
Well,
what I was doing
it happens
before.
with people on vegan diets, right? What happens with people on vegan diets is they start off, they feel great. They're like, oh my God, this is the diet for me. This is amazing. Then over time, their body starts reacting to the lack of nutrients, lack of cholesterol, lack of saturated fat, and it doesn't, and it's different bodies. I mean, obviously some people have no problem with it, but some people have like legit, like Chris Kresser is a perfect example. He started out with a macrobiotic vegan diet and had real serious reactions to it over time.
Yeah.
Started out doing well, and then over time started to break his body down.
How long did it take?
I forget. But when he started reintroducing meat back into his diet, he had a massive ramp up. When I see your dad and how healthy he is and how he looks so
His
good.
skin looks younger.
Yeah. It looks thinner. Like it's like he's all sucked in. And
Yeah.
Looks like looks healthy.
I know. He looks like a different person than the person I knew. And I look
weird.
like a different person than the person I knew. Like my face looks different in a good way.
Yeah. Do you feel like this is the way you're going to eat for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
And do you think it's sustainable?
Yeah.
No, I'm not arguing against it. I'm
Just
wondering.
sustainable in what way?
Nutritionally.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah?
I think so. I'll keep getting my vitamins tested, but this book that I've been reading about this guy who lived with Inuit, that's what they ate.
Mm-hmm.
They were healthy. They didn't have teeth that fell out. Like, they weren't sick like we're sick.
The Inuits are the people that went up there.
The Inuits.
Yeah, but the Inuits, didn't they evolve that way? I mean, if you stop and think about it, I mean,
But didn't we evolve that way too?
I don't know.
I mean, we can't say we changed like 10,000 years ago in order to eat grain. Looks like we've evolved to hunt.
It's very interesting stuff. You know, I don't have your health issues, and I think very few people do. But obviously for you, it's made some massive impact.
Yeah.
And for your father as well. I mean, it's very, very interesting. And like I said, my friend lives in San Diego, no problems. I mean, he's loving it. I know several other people that have jumped on board as well too, and they're seeing big benefits from it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost enough to make me want to try it, but
You should try.
Well, the problem
It doesn't take long.
yeah, but I have hundreds of pounds of wild game meat.
That's perfect.
Yeah, but I have to eat it with fat. I'd have to figure out a way to get fat into it.
You can order tallow here.
Yeah.
Just order tallow. It's on, like, I've talked to people like programmers in Silicon Valley who've Skyped me, and they're healthy and they just want to be more productive. And the cognitive benefits, it takes like 6 weeks, and it's worth just seeing what it's like.
But they get that just from the ketogenic diet.
No, I've had people switch off of the ketogenic. There's something here. There's really something here, and it's worth
for you.
seeing. No, I think people would see benefits if they tried it, even healthy people.
What do you think those benefits are coming from?
I don't know. I don't know if microbiome switch or if there's less, you're just ingesting less plant toxin, or if
Plant
this is
toxin? What do you mean by that?
Well, plants have like naturally occurring toxins depending on the plant to get bugs and things to stop eating them. That's just their defense mechanism. So, like oxalates, that's a big one. Lectins, like all those types of things are inflammatory. And it's just seemed like we've just found the plants that we can tolerate. Like as humans, we've found the plants we can tolerate the easiest and don't kill us, and we eat those. And we've bred them so that they're easier to eat. But so maybe removing those from the diet seems to help people. But it seems like giving it a 6-week try, I don't see a downside. Like, and I haven't seen anybody switch back.
Really?
And I've been talking to a lot of people on Skype over like periods of months, and I haven't seen anyone switch back, including the healthy people.
All right. Well, I'm curious. This conversation's evolving, that's for sure.